It looks like we have some news on Asuka's status with WWE. As PW Insider reports, there has been movement on her contract. We're going to talk about what happened, what the report says, what it means for not just Asuka, but for others down the line. We're also going to talk about Ricky Starks for the first time speaking out against these allegations that he had turned down AEW creative. That is something that fans have been pointing to, and a big reason why people claim that he's going to end up going to WWE. But he's speaking out against that for the first time. We're also going to talk about a major change for WWE over the next couple of weeks. All that, much more right here in this video. So don't go anywhere. Be sure to smash that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new video is released. All right, let's talk about Asuka, one of WWE's biggest female stars. I would argue, their biggest Joshi talent they brought in, and I think someone that WWE would not want to let go under any circumstances, and it looks like that's what's happening. According to PW Insider, you can see the aggregation here from WrestlePurist. Asuka has signed a new WWE deal while she's currently out following a knee injury. PW Insider also did report that the deal is a multi-year deal, so we can all expect Asuka to be around in WWE for the foreseeable future. And of course, she is recovering from this knee injury that is keeping her off TV, so she's been kind of out of mind. But it is interesting when you consider the fact that a lot of these other WWE deals in the TKO era, these negotiations have taken place seemingly just weeks within when that talent's contract was up. We don't know when Asuka's contract is up. However, someone of her caliber, I feel like if that information would be out there, it would be when her contract was coming up. The fact that it wasn't maybe points to the fact that they came in a little bit early, and this could be a bit of a changing of the guard, at least for bigger talent. There's no question that WWE would want to keep Asuka around. As I said before, I would argue that she is their biggest Joshi star, and she is like synonymous at this point, I think, with that like main event scene in the women's division. Like, Asuka is one of those talent in WWE that no matter what she's doing, whether she's taking like a backseat for the time being or she's out with injury or whatever, she can always be ready for a big-time main event feud, a big-time main event match, a big-time main event story. She is, in that way, a made woman. And you need those types of people if you're WWE. You need those people who you can bring in and have them work a program and have them be not only like, be able to work it, but be believable as a threat, be believable as a star for the audience. And that is precisely what Asuka has been able to do. That perception she has, even going back to that winning streak back in 2018 that WWE ended for no ungodly reason, she made herself indispensable for this company, and it shows here as she seemingly gets a new contract. We don't know what the contract is. I would expect that Asuka is getting paid a large amount of money to stay with WWE. That is clear from the way that like these contracts are coming out, and like it comes, during a time where WWE reportedly were a little upset with AEW over contracts that were given out or at least offered to the likes of Swerve Strickland and Daniel Garcia. Swerve, of course, signed one of the biggest contracts in AEW history, reportedly, and WWE were kind of I don't like that because that means we have to pay our talent more. And if there's anything like good, even if you don't watch AEW, but like if there's anything good that's coming out of that, is that the mere existence of another North American major wrestling company is that you're going to get comparable money to WWE and sometimes even more money. And that's going to make WWE have to sweeten the deal for talent. And for talent like Asuka and others who, for decades, wrestling talent have been getting underpaid. This is not a new phenomenon. This is just the truth. They have been getting paid a fraction of what their true worth is and a fraction of what is even a equitable compromise, right? And now we're seeing the tide shift, that talent are getting these big contracts. And that's why I don't like this discourse around, oh, man, this person's only worth X amount of money. Like, no. Number one, you don't know the finances, so you don't know how much they're actually worth. And number two, if you are going to sit there and tell me this person who, throws himself at the ground for a living, this person who, takes bumps for a living is not worth, literally a fraction of what a WWE could be paying them, you have no room to talk, and you're not a serious person, right? So I think talent getting paid is a good thing. I think hopefully, Asuka is getting paid a lot of money, which would up the ante for others in the women's division as well. We knew that Mercedes, her contract, one of the biggest, if not the biggest, I believe, women's contract in wrestling history at that point. That was a big deal, and it's hopefully caused her value to go up. So expect that though to be a thing, where you're going to see others get an offer from AEW and WWE have to either match or up that, and it's going to be a thing. And I think it's great for professional wrestling because it means the talent that we are watching, the talent that we enjoy, the talent that we are glued to every single week are getting paid a little bit closer to what their true value is. They're never going to get paid anywhere close to what their true value is, because if that were the case, then one, we wouldn't be living under capitalism, and two, I don't know how Mark Shapiro and others and Triple H and Nick Khan and other like that who are, their main thing is they're concerned about making sure that they get the profits going. Tony Khan as well, if we're being honest, I'm not sure they would be in the business of professional wrestling if that were the case, but we'll see what happens there. But shout out to Asuka for staying with WWE. Hopefully she's used a bit more and put in a more prominent light than she had been recently. Although, I couldn't complain about the damage control stuff. I actually kind of like that. So that's that. Let's move on now and talk about someone we've been talking about for a while. Let's talk about Ricky Starks. So Ricky went off on X the other day, and this, or actually yesterday, I believe it was, and it got a lot of people talking. So obviously there's been a lot of talk about Ricky Starks and his future with AEW or lack thereof. There's interest with WWE and them wanting him to come over there, and I think I've said this before, I'm on record saying no matter where Ricky Starks goes, he's a guy who will succeed. He will be NXT champion if he goes to NXT. He will be, I think, a world champion in WWE at some point. But we are now at a point where, narratives have been spun about the situation. We've heard that, Ricky Starks was injured, but then he states that he's cleared. The next narrative that was kind of spun was, Ricky was declining offers of creative. Specifically, there was a report, I believe it was from Fightful, that Ricky had been offered a spot with Big Bill, that they had been some creative pitch to him that he would be involved in a breakup angle with Big Bill, and Ricky allegedly, reportedly, whatever, turned that down. Well, a fan actually said that on Twitter, and Ricky could not help himself for the first time, speaking out against that specific talking point. Says, quote, "Enough is enough. Usually I don't even speak on this, but it's tired. I never turned down anything ever. Just stop." Ricky Starks claiming that he never turned down any creative from AEW, and that is the position that he is coming from. He's coming from that position of, I didn't turn down anything. This narrative, it's implied there, this narrative is not true, and that he is tired of it. And I think, right, there's always this adage of there's specific talent who are perceived by people within any company. Most of the time it was in WWE. We're now kind of hearing that a little bit more and more in AEW. This person is not necessarily a problem, but an attitude problem, right? That's what I was getting at. This person has an attitude problem. This person doesn't want to do business, blah, 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 blah. And that sometimes, right, can be a talent being I don't think this fits my character, and here's what else we could do. And that may not be what the company wants to do at that time, right? And I think part of a company is doing things that companies do, which is spin narratives to protect themselves and, prepare for eventualities like potentially Ricky Starks leaving. For AEW, it's better for them to craft a narrative that Ricky didn't want to do business or Ricky wasn't on board with creative, rather than, we didn't have anything good for him. And, I've said this, right? Ricky is someone who AEW have fumbled. And I truly believe this. Like, we're going to look back at like this in like 5-10 years, I think. And I think Ricky will eventually end up in WWE. I think it's just, it's happening. It's going to happen at some point. We're going to be at a point where we're going to wonder, like, man, AEW, like, how did they mess it up this bad? Because this is a can't miss talent right here. This is a guy who I think, like, is a true main event level guy. His promo ability is second to none. His ability in the ring is great. Like, he has the ability to carry matches, charisma out the wazoo, everything you would want in a main event talent. And somehow AEW just didn't have the creative behind for him. The only time that he was ever really perceived as a big time threat there were twice. Number one, when he had that feud with MJF, and number two, when he had that feud with CM Punk. Outside of that, we didn't really get, like that big Ricky Starks push that everyone thought we would. And it's unfortunate. And it's unfortunate we're at a place where there's this talking point that he turned down creative or whatever. Ricky has been stating, by the way, for a while that, like, he's ready to go. Like he is healthy. He's ready to go. That AEW just does not have anything for him. So a little bit of a he said, she said. But at the same time, I mean, you can also understand that Ricky is someone who cares about his work. He cares about his talent. He cares about the way he's perceived in the professional wrestling sphere. And a narrative like that can hurt your bargaining position also. Like that's also something to take into account, not only your perception with the fans. So I have no problem with Ricky, countering this, especially if it's true. Like, go out there, speak your truth, King. Do what you got to do. I just can't wait to see Ricky Starks back on TV. I don't care where it is, whether it's WWE, whether it's back at AEW and they figure it out. I just want to see one of, like, the true, like I don't use the word generational talent a lot. I think Ricky Starks shows so many of those traits that we don't see as consistently, so it doesn't, ring true with everyone. But when you look at the full body of work, this dude has everything you would want in, like, that guy. People like to call him The Rock or whatever. It's got nothing to do with his promo. It's got nothing to do with people just like, oh my God, he kind of looks like The Rock. It's just like a dumb, stupid IWC talking point that, like, people like to push, but it's just, it means nothing. Because if that's the most you got against, like, Ricky Starks, or the biggest thing you got to say about Ricky Starks, like, I mean, it goes to show you can't really criticize anything else, can you? But shout out to Ricky. Hopefully things are figured out there, and hopefully we get to see him soon, because he is one of the best talents out there, in my opinion. And let's finally talk about our last topic, WWE reportedly making quite a big change over the next couple of weeks. So one of the things that was a question mark in the TKO era was WWE live events. Would they be doing them? Would they be doing them as frequently? We know they've kind of cut down on them. They used to be running, like, literally every single week, almost 50 weeks a year out of 52. 5 days per week. That has been cut down a bit now. They're still obviously doing live events, but here's an interesting note from WrestleOps on Twitter. The month of September 2024 will see WWE hold only 2 live events. September 28th, September 29th. Now, we of course have them coming back from Berlin this week, but that should not, you would think, affect the ability for them to have live events. But it seems like they're at least giving talent a bit of a break from the road here, and they're running only TV. And this harkens back to something that I believe Mark Shapiro on a TKO call last year had discussed, and that is the potential of phasing out or kind of decreasing the frequency of these live events. They are not televised. You are completely dependent on the gate to make the value back on the event. which has not been a problem for WWE as of recently. They have been selling a lot of tickets. They have been red hot for both live events and TV. But at the same time, for a long-term option, you want to be able to maximize value. And when you talk about live events, you're talking about paying for talent's travel. You're talking about paying for hotel. You're talking about all these different things that go into it. Or actually, I'm not sure if WWE pays for hotel. They might now, but they didn't a while ago. Anyway, point is that there are a lot of logistics to set up. There's a lot of investment on the front end on those types of things. So for WWE, it's one of those things of like, is it worth the cost benefit long term? That's a question mark that AEW has had, like, and they kind of like said that from the beginning, like they are not a live event company. They are a television entity. And that is what's gotten them this far. You look at WWE's biggest revenue streams, it is not live events. Don't get me wrong. The gates at these big events are insane, and they are generating a tremendous amount of revenue. But when you're talking about these live events, like these house shows, they're not as profitable as I think people think they are. Some are, like the MSG shows always do well. The shows overseas always do well as far as a gate. But, like their biggest value comes from, those live gates at WrestleManias, those live gates at SummerSlams, and also, more importantly, from their television media rights deals. Netflix, CW, Fox, all those companies that are paying them money, those are that's where the money is, and that's where I think the focus is for WWE. So this might be them just kind of being like, oh, we want to give our talent some time off. We want to maybe cut down on the logistics a little bit this month and show a little bit more value as the end of the quarter comes up. So maybe that's it. Who knows? But we'll see. Maybe this will hearken or this will lead to another decrease in frequency for these live events. Let me know in the comment section what you guys think about this. Ricky Starks, Asuka, so much wrestling news, and you got it right here with me every single day. YouTube.com/Real Take Wrestling. Be sure to smash that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new video is released. And until next time, be happy, be healthy, and as always, keep it real.